Adaptive Go is about using whatever tool you can to overcome the barriers that you face as a disabled person so that you can live a free and full life. Kia ora, ko Stephanie Tuku Ingoa, haere mai, welcome to Adaptive Go. Hi, my name is Stephanie. I guess this approach to disability has come from my sporting background, where I used to ride a bike, and I did other sports as well, and I would invest my time and money in anything I could that would make me fitter, faster, stronger. And overcoming disability is no different. Some people overcome their disability by using medicine and rehabilitation and that sort of whole medical model of disability, and that has its place. I use medicine and it makes me fitter, faster and stronger, maybe not quite to the same extent as a normal person would, but it certainly helps me a lot. So this sort of medical approach to disability really has its place. But I think as well there's the more social model approach of disability, and I think this is what really affects most people who are disabled. Is the social model is about reducing the barriers to disability so that people who do have disability can engage with the community and do their sports and whatever it is that they want to do. And that sort of more social model is about saying that it's actually society that puts in place these barriers that stop us from being able to do the things we want to do. So what helps us to overcome these barriers? I can sort of think of three main things, and there's probably loads more, but one of the things that really helps people is technology, another is disability support, and then the last one that I'm going to sort of talk about today is good universal design. Technology really helps to overcome barriers in lots of different ways. For instance, keyless entry and door handles are ways that technology is good universal design and works for everyone, but also can really help people with limited hand function be able to access cars, get inside their own house without pulling out a key. So yeah, those are good examples. Another is how technology can help disabled people access the outdoors, be able to walk along the beach with their family, be able to go for walks and hikes or ride their bikes on trail paths. And then sport. Technology can help people engage with sport, so it can give people things like sit skis and wakeboards and a whole bunch of other stuff that enables people who are disabled to still be able to participate in sport. So disability supports can be having a carer come into your home so that you're able to stay in your home. It can be equipment, things like walking sticks or little tools that you can use to pick up things that have been dropped on the ground or help you put your socks on. There's all sorts of things that come into the realm of disability supports, things like wheelchairs. And having an assistance dog and my Ramon is another type of disability support. Another example is good kitchen design, like we saw in the previous video with Claudia's kitchen. Some other types of universal design are like lowered doorway entry into trains and kneeling buses, but also things like walking tracks that are being widened and being built out so that disabled people can access them and can ride in four-wheelers. But the advantage about these wider tracks is that anybody can use them, and cyclists can use them, and runners. Universal design is growing, but it's still pretty limited, and usually it really improves when the person working on the design has some lived experience with disability. Otherwise you can get ramps that are too steep so that nobody can get up them and they're not used even by disabled people. Or you get a ramp that's been built with a real tight corner in it, and so you can't navigate your mobility scooter or your wheelchair around the corner, and so it just doesn't get used. Or you get ramps put in really strange locations down dark alleyways, or these pot plants in front of the doors. So those are like accessible design, but universal design is where it's just so intuitive and it fits in with the whole approach of the building that, yeah, it benefits everyone. Another example of where design can go wrong is where you're doing things for the right reasons, like a fire safety door is often a really heavy door, but it's left like that as a really heavy door. You can still have fire safety doors, but make them universally accessible to everyone. Thinking about disability as a problem in society, it's kind of helpful but kind of not, because then it feels like really daunting, and how can you sort of help and how can you overcome it? And I think it's about actually what an inclusive society is everybody helping just that little bit. And if everybody did just a little bit, then we would have a much more inclusive society. So the next time you're thinking about renovations, have a look at some of the universal design. Think about putting your light switches lower, those sorts of things, so that you can just sort of leave it that much better for the person that might follow you. A really big barrier, particularly here in New Zealand, is cost. It's very difficult to access funding in New Zealand, and it really does depend on what caused your disability and where you live. And the disparate nature of all the different funding sources mean that people are often excluded. So I think if you want to help as well within New Zealand, you can think about linking up with some organisations that support disabled people. A couple that I know about and I'm really keen on is Adapt MTB. Is a great organisation where they try and get disabled people onto bikes, and it's it's really innovative and it creates a sense of community, and so it's a fabulous place to be. Those sorts of organisations, they can do with volunteers and funding. There's another organisation called Making Tracks. This is an organisation that set itself up as a charity with the idea of sort of crowdsourcing or seeking funding to purchase sporting equipment, so that any disabled person in the community is able to access that sporting equipment to be able to participate in the sport. And then there's also organisations like charity organisations that represent the cause of impairment, like Arthritis New Zealand or multiple sclerosis or low blind vision. Those sorts of organisations, they're always looking for funding and donations, but also volunteers. So there's lots of ways that all of us can do our little bit to help try and build a more inclusive society. In New Zealand here, we're also doing some big reform on, we're setting up a new Ministry of Disability, and it's sort of taking that enabling good lives approach, where it's really building on the social model of disability and looking at ways of reducing barriers. I'm hopeful that all these changes and all of us just doing our little bit will really make a difference for people. So I hope this video has been useful for you, sort of explaining the two differences of medical and social models of disability. Subscribe and follow my journey as I sort of learn to adapt and live a free and full life, and sort of talk to other people about their disabilities and how they're coping and managing. So yeah, subscribe, don't miss out. Ka kite.